Hello, my name is Carolyn Derwing, and I'm the Schedule Analyst for the Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District. I'm here today with Eric Friedrich, our Transit Planner, to discuss Metro's service reduction proposal. We are going to provide only a quick overview of Metro's service reduction proposal. If you would like more information or if you have any questions, please come to one of our public hearings. These hearings are scheduled throughout the county between May 11th and May 26th. The exact times, dates, and locations of these hearings will be listed at the end of the program. As many of you may know, Metro enacted a 10% service cut last year. We had hoped that the local economy and other funding issues would have improved enough to prevent another service cut this year. Unfortunately, that has not happened. Eric, why don't you talk a little about Metro's financial situation for us?
Thank you, Carolyn. Unfortunately, Metro's financial outlook is quite bleak. But first, it's important to know how Metro is funded on a day-to-day basis. As you can see, Metro's budget is mainly supplied through a combination of a half-cent sales tax that was passed by the voters in 1978 and Transportation Development Act funding that is passed through from the Regional Transportation Commission. We also receive funding from federal assistance, as well as revenue out of the fare boxes. But due to losses and declining revenues from this prolonged economic recession, Metro's current service levels is financially unsustainable. In fact, from June 30, 2007 to June 30, 2010, Metro has lost $4.7 million in operating revenue. That's nearly 15% of Metro's total operating budget. Because of this detrimental loss in revenue, Metro is now forced into a position where we must reduce transit levels. The factors that staff used to formulate this preliminary plan were maintain geographic coverage, make sure there were no impacts to current Paracruz customers, reduce frequencies along transit corridors, streamline the amount of bus stops on some routes, and focus service around work commute times and school bell times. With that background, we're going to look through this plan by geographic area, starting with local Santa Cruz. The two routes that are affected in local Santa Cruz will be the Route 3, Mission, Natural Bridges, and the Route 4, Harvey West, Emmeline area. Basically, these routes are going from hourly service to a service every other hour, with slight adjustments in the morning. Carolyn, why don't you explain further?
It's easiest to describe these changes if we look at the new proposed timetables. As you can see, the first trip of the Route 3 will still be at 6:50 a.m. It does skip a couple of hours, with the next trip not departing until 9:50 a.m. The Route 3 will then run every other hour, with the last trip still departing the Santa Cruz Metro Center at 5:50 p.m. A similar adjustment has been made to the Route 4 service. The first trip will now depart at 7:45 a.m. rather than 6:45 a.m. The next trip will depart at 8:45 a.m., after which there will be a Route 4 running every other hour, with the last trip still departing the Metro Center at 4:45 p.m.
Okay, the next area we should discuss is UCSC. There have been several proposed changes to the university service. The departure times have changed and some routes have been deleted. Carolyn, you should explain on this further.
Okay, this slide shows a clock face that displays the current departures of the university routes 10, 16, 19, and 20 on the left side, and the newly proposed departures on the right side. This change was made in an effort to more evenly spread out the service and spread out the departures to UCSC to provide better service with the same number of trips. So this slide demonstrates a change to the basic framework for the UCSC service. Now, there are still going to be additional trips that will run to pick up overflow of students that occur immediately before and after classes. These departure time adjustments will affect the weekday and the weekend schedule. Now, the UCSC routes that are scheduled to be deleted by the current service reduction proposal are the Route 13 via Walnut and the Night Owl service, which is the 16N via Laurel that currently runs 7 days a week, and the 19N via Lower Bay that currently runs on Friday and Saturday nights only. Eric, why don't you talk a bit more about the UCSC night owl service?
Sure. The university still wishes to provide at least some night owl service and is currently working with Metro to come up with a plan for UCSC to provide that service using their own buses and their own drivers. This possibility would only include night owl service to run Friday nights and Saturday nights, which has the higher ridership, and the specifics of this plan are still being worked out between Metro and the university.
Okay. The next area that we will discuss is the service to Scotts Valley and the San Lorenzo Valley.
The routes in Scotts Valley and San Lorenzo Valley that would be affected include Route 34, South Felton, and Route 35A and 35, Santa Cruz to San Lorenzo Valley, and also in the reverse direction, Route 35, 35A, from San Lorenzo Valley to Santa Cruz. What are the specifics here, Carolyn?
Well, here is a copy of the new timetable for the Route 34. Now, the morning departure will stay the same at 7:25 a.m. However, the afternoon departure of the Route 34 has been moved from 2:35 p.m. to 3:20 p.m.
All right. Carolyn, the next few slides show the timetables for the Route 35, 35A. Instead of showing all the trips on this route, these slides will only show the evening trips because they're the trips that would be affected under this service proposal. Can you explain further?
Yes, the evening departures of the Route 35A have been adjusted. Starting at 6 p.m., there will be hourly trips of the 35A. After 8 p.m., those trips will run every hour and 15 minutes. As you can see from this timetable, the last trip of the Route 35A from Santa Cruz to Boulder Creek will now be at 10:30 p.m. rather than 11 p.m. So there will now be 5 evening trips of the 35A from Santa Cruz to Boulder Creek rather than the 7 trips that currently run. The last trip of the 35A to Boulder Creek will still serve both the Mountain Store and the Boulder Creek Country Club. These departure changes will apply to both the weekday and the weekend service. Now, the evening departures on the Route 35A in the opposite direction, that is from Boulder Creek to Santa Cruz, have been adjusted as well, and they can be seen in the next slide. There is a little more variability in the trips to Santa Cruz. They gradually spread out from approximately 30 minutes to about an hour and 15 minutes between departures. The last trip from Boulder Creek to Santa Cruz will now depart Boulder Creek at 9:20 p.m. Currently, the last trip departs Boulder Creek at 9:40 p.m. on the weekdays and at 10:33 p.m. on the weekends. This new departure schedule would apply to both the weekday and the weekend service, reducing the number of weekend evening trips by 1, but keeping the number of weekday trips the same. There will also no longer be any service to Big Basin State Park on the weekends. Service on Highway 236 will only go as far as China Grade. Finally, there will only be 2 school term trips in both the morning and the afternoon. In the morning, one trip would serve both the Mountain Store and Bear Creek area, while the other would serve the Country Club. In the afternoon, one trip would serve the Mountain Store, and again, the second trip would serve the Country Club.
Okay. Next, we should talk about the North Coast and Bonnie Doon area. The 2 routes that would be affected under this plan would be the Route 40 to Davenport and Route 42, Davenport and Bonnie Doon. Why don't you expand on that?
Yeah, to begin with, the Route 40 Davenport will no longer serve Waddell Creek. The farthest north this service will run now would be on Highway 1 is Cement Plant Road. Since the Route 40 will no longer serve Waddell Creek, the weekday 6:15 a.m. departure has been moved to 6:40 a.m. so that the trip will still arrive at Pacific School at 7:10 a.m. The weekday 12:30 p.m. trip of the Route 40 has also been deleted. Now on the weekends, the 8:30 a.m. trip will no longer serve Waddell Creek, but the departure will remain the same. The weekday 4:30 p.m. trip of the Route 40 has also been deleted. Passengers wanting to return to Davenport in the evening will need to ride the Route 42. So on to the Route 42. Here is the new Here is the new timetable. The weekday departure remains the same at 8:30 p.m. However, on the weekend, there will now only be one trip departing Santa Cruz at 7:30 p.m.
Okay. Well, the next area we should discuss is the Mid-County area, which includes Capitola and Aptos. The routes that would be affected under this service plan would be the Route 54, Capitola, Aptos, and La Selva Beach, Route 55, Rio Del Mar, and Route 56, La Selva Beach.
Let's begin with the Route 54 timetable. You can see that two of the departures have been slightly adjusted. The weekday 5:30 p.m. trip has been moved to 5:35 p.m., and the weekend 8:20 a.m. trip has been moved to 8 a.m. The other change to the Route 54 involves no longer providing service to an area that we commonly refer to as the Mar Vista Loop. As you can see here on the map, we have circled this area in red. It is an area just off of State Park Drive that runs from Sea Ridge Road to Mar Vista Drive to McGregor Drive. And this change would apply to both the weekday and the weekend Route 54. The Route 55 will also no longer provide service to the Mar Vista Loop area. Finally, there has been one change to the Route 56. The weekday 8:45 a.m. trip has been moved to 8 a.m.
All right, let's move over to Live Oak. The routes in this area that would be affected under this plan would be the Route 66, Live Oak via 17th, Route 68, Live Oak via Broadway and Portola, and Route 69, the Capitola Road.
Yes, I will start with Route 69. Now this change applies to what we call the short Route 69s, and that includes those trips that provide service only as far as the Capitola Mall. Now, all trips of this route have been deleted, and that's 34 trips on the weekday and 1 trip on the weekend. On the weekdays, the Route 69A and the Route 69W will still each have hourly trips to the mall. So between these two routes, there will still be service to the mall every half hour, rather than the current 15 minutes during the peak periods. The Route 68 will have 2 major changes to its service under the current service reduction proposal. To begin with, the Route 68 will no longer serve the loop that covers the area from 26th Avenue to East Cliff Drive to 30th. And this is true for both service to and from the Capitola Mall. You can see this area encircled in red on the map. Secondly, the Route 68 will no longer run on the weekends. It will only run on the weekdays. Several changes have also been made to the Route 66. The weekday evening departures have been reduced from 4 trips a day to 3 trips a day. The evening trips will basically run every hour and a half rather than every hour. As you can see from the timetable, the last departure will remain the same, with the last trip to the mall departing at 10 p.m. and the last trip to Santa Cruz departing at 10:40 p.m. The weekday 8 a.m. trip to Santa Cruz has also been deleted. Now, there still is a 7:50 a.m. trip to Santa Cruz that also serves Harbor High School. The 8 a.m. trip was deleted rather than the 7:50 a.m. trip because the 8 a.m. trip did not get the students to school on time. Finally, the departure times for the weekend trips of the Route 66 have been changed. They will no longer match the weekday departures. The new schedule can be seen on the timetable shown here.
All right, well, let's keep heading south and go to Cabrillo and South County. The routes in this area that would be affected under the service reduction proposal include the 69A, Capitola Road in Watsonville, the 69W, which is Capitola Road, Cabrillo, Watsonville, the 69N, which is Cabrillo at night, and the 71 in both directions to and from Santa Cruz and Watsonville, and the 91X Commuter Express from Watsonville and Santa Cruz.
I will begin by discussing those routes that have been deleted. Under this service reduction proposal, the 2 routes that will be eliminated entirely are the Route 69N and the Route 91X. In addition, on the weekends, the Route 69A and the 69W will be replaced by a new route called the 69C. Now, the Route 69C would run hourly between Santa Cruz and Watsonville. Here is a map of the routing that the new 69C would use. As you can see, it is a lot like a 69A, except it also serves Cabrillo College and State Park Drive. We have also included a copy of the timetable for the Route 69C. Basically, the 69C will depart Santa Cruz every hour on the hour from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the weekends. The return trips will depart Watsonville hourly at 20 minutes after the hour from 7:20 a.m. until 6:20 p.m. Several adjustments have also been made to the Route 71. On the weekdays, 7 trips have been deleted. These are all non-standard departures from Watsonville to Santa Cruz. These trips are the 6:55 a.m., the 7:25 a.m., 7:55 a.m., 3:55 p.m., 4:25 p.m., 4:55 p.m., and 5:25 p.m. trips.
Carolyn, speaking of the Route 71, the next few slides are going to show only the evening trips of the 71, because under this proposal, those are the trips that would be adjusted. Could you explain further?
Yes. The evening departures of the Route 71 have also been adjusted. As you can see from the timetable, beginning at 9:15 p.m., there will be an hourly departure of the Route 71 from Santa Cruz to Watsonville. The last departure to Watsonville will now be at 11:15 p.m. rather than 11:45 p.m. These departures will be the same on both the weekdays and the weekends. The Route 71 trips in the other direction, from Watsonville to Santa Cruz, will run in a similar pattern, with hourly departures beginning at 8 p.m. The last departure to Santa Cruz will now be at 10 p.m. rather than the current 10:30 p.m. These departure times will also be the same for both the weekdays and the weekends.
All right. Finally, we will talk about service in the local Watsonville area. The routes that have been changed under this plan include the Route 72, the Route 74, and the Route 75. Carolyn, could you give us the details on what's happening out here?
The departures for all trips of the Route 72 have been moved 10 minutes later, from 40 minutes after the hour to 50 minutes after the hour. As you can see from the timetable, the first trip of the Route 72 will now depart Watsonville at 5:50 a.m. The following trips will now run every other hour until 5:50 p.m., with the last trip of the Route 72 departing Watsonville Transit Center at 6:50 p.m. The number of trips have been reduced from 14 trips a day to 8 trips a day. The number of trips for the Route 74 have also been reduced, in this case from 12 trips a day to 6 trips a day. The first departure from the Watsonville Transit Center will still be at 6:50 a.m. Subsequent trips will depart Watsonville Transit Center every other hour, with the last trip departing at 4:50 p.m. As you can see in the timetable, the 6:50 a.m. trip and the 4:50 p.m. trip will serve Pajaro Valley High School. The other trips will all serve the Social Security office at Westgate and Technology Drive. Finally, with the Route 75 Green Valley, on the weekdays, the last trip with a departure of 8:09 p.m. has been deleted. The Route 75 will now run on the same schedule 7 days a week.
Thanks, Carolyn. To summarize, with all of these changes, this proposal would still maintain geographic coverage throughout the county except for a few areas. Those few areas include Highway 1 between Cement Plant Road and Waddell Creek, Highway 236 between China Grade and Big Basin, the Mara Vista Loop on routes 54 and 55, and the 26 East Cliff to 30th Loop on Route 68. As you can see from the map, the areas that would no longer be served are in the red lines and are labeled no longer served. In fact, this service reduction is a 12% service reduction, but only accounts for a 4% reduction in geographic coverage and will save the district $4.4 million in estimated savings per year. With that, we are gathering public comment on the service reduction, and you can give us your comments several ways. You could go online to scmtd.com. You can send us an email at service@scmtd.com. You can write to us at Service Reductions at Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District at 110 Vernon Street, Santa Cruz, California at 95060, or you can always call customer service at 831-425-8600. The public hearing dates and locations are as followed over the next few slides. The first one is going to be May 11th, and it'll be at 5:30 at Pacific School on 50 Ocean Street in Davenport. The route you can use to get there is underneath, and you can use Route 40. The second public hearings, or second set of public hearings, will be May 12th at 2 p.m. at 6 p.m. at Santa Cruz Metro Center in downtown Santa Cruz. You can use just about any route to get there except for the 54, 55, 56, or the local Watsonville routes. On May 16th, we'll be at the Simpkins Family Swim Center at 4:30 and at 6 p.m., and that is located at 979 17th Avenue, and you can use the Route 66 to get there. On May 18th, we'll be in Scotts Valley at the Scotts Valley Community Center on 370 Kings Village, which is right next to the transit center. You can use Route 30 or the Route 35A or 35 to get there. On May 19th, the next day, we'll be down in Watsonville at the Watsonville Public Library on 275 Main Street. You can use the 69A, 69W, a 71, a 91X, or any local Watsonville route to get to the public library. And those times are going to be at 4 p.m. and at 6 p.m. On May 23rd, we'll be at the Felton Community Hall at 6191 Highway 9. You can use the Route 35, 35A to get there. The times will be there will be at 4:30 and at 6 o'clock, and that's in Felton. Our last public hearing date is May 26th. It'll be starting at 3:30 and again at 5, and it'll be at the Aptos Public Library at 7695 Soquel Drive. You can use the 55, 56, the 69W, or the 71 to get there, and that's in Aptos. The Metro Board of Directors will be voting on this proposal on June 24th of this year. If approved, the service structure proposal will be implemented on September 15th, 2011. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you at one of our public hearings. Thanks again.